Hi, Present Me here. Today I want to tell you about my experience learning to heal for the very first time, and why it completely changed the way I look at World of Warcraft. I hit 3000 Raider IO on my Protection Paladin, which was also the first season I had ever seriously tanked. After that, I pushed my Unholy Death Knight to 2500. Once I finished those goals, I started looking for something new. In previous seasons, there was an achievement called Triple Threat. To earn it, you had to complete every dungeon at level 10 or higher as a tank, a DPS, and a healer. I later found out there wasn't actually a triple threat achievement this season, but by then I had already committed. The achievements wasn't really the point anymore. I wanted to experience Mythic Plus from a completely different perspective. Healing was one role I had never seriously played, so I started doing some research. The two beginner-friendly healers that kept coming up were Mistweaver Monk and Restoration Shaman. So naturally, I tried both. I started with Mistweaver Monk. I only made it through a couple of dungeons before realizing it wasn't really clicking for me. The healing style, it felt very cast-heavy and stationary. Now, I'm sure experienced Mistweaver players are already typing comments explaining all the nuances I missed, and you're probably right, but as a brand new healer, that was my first impression. After 2 dungeons, I decided to try Restoration Shaman instead. At first, it wasn't much different. My toolkit was basically Healing Wave and Chain Heal. Again, it felt pretty stationary. Then I unlocked Healing Stream Totem, and for whatever reason, that one spell changed everything. Suddenly, I had healing happening while I was moving. It felt active, it felt flexible, it felt more like something I could see myself playing. I ran a few more dungeons and then decided to look up how both specs actually functioned at higher levels. The monk guides left me a little confused. From my very limited understanding, there were builds where you spent a lot of time using Spinning Crane Kick in large pulls, and then used your direct healing for spot healing. I'm sure there's much more to it than that, but that was my takeaway. The Restoration Shaman guides, on the other hand, immediately made sense to me. The basic idea I took away is simple. Drop your totems, let them do a lot of the heavy lifting, then focus on the supporting the group and spot healing where needed. That sounded perfect. So I committed to a Restoration Shaman. After leveling for a while, I got my Shaman to level 30 and felt comfortable enough with the basics that I decided to move over to my level 90 character and start learning in earnest. My first healing experience came in a time-walking dungeon with my good friend Eldrith, who happened to be leveling a tank at the time. Before I go any further, I want to give him a shout out. Eldrith was a huge part of me reaching my goals of getting all 10s completed as a healer. So thank you, my friend. Your help and your friendship are deeply appreciated. Now back to the story. Those time-walking dungeons were the perfect introduction to healing. The pulls were manageable, the pressure was low, and Eldrith wasn't chain-pulling half the dungeon at once. It was comfortable. Maybe a little too comfortable. Because while time-walking taught me how my buttons worked, it did not prepare me for Mythic Plus. Not even close. A fellow content creator named Scions runs an event called No Fear Thursdays. The entire goal is to help players learn Mythic Plus in a welcoming environment. I reached out and asked if he'd be willing to take along a brand new healer. Even though I wasn't new to Mythic Plus, I was definitely new to healing. His answer was simple. Absolutely. Unfortunately, I don't have the footage from those runs, but I remember them very clearly. The first key was a +2. The moment the first pull started, something hit me that I wasn't expecting. Anxiety. As a tank, I'm used to controlling the pace. As DPS, I'm focused on mechanics and damage. But as a healer, suddenly every health bar on my screen felt like it was my responsibility. Then it happened. Someone died. Immediately my brain went to the same place. That was my fault. I didn't know if it actually was my fault, but that's how it felt. And every time someone died after that, I found myself asking the same question. Could I have saved them? We kept pushing forward, and despite my concerns, the run went well enough that we actually triple-chested the key. That upgraded us into a +5. So naturally, we kept going, and that's when things got messy. The very first pull went sideways. Everyone died except the tank, including me. I instantly used reincarnation, got back into the fight, and did everything I could keep the tank alive, while the group ran back. By the end of that dungeon, we had accumulated 25 deaths. 25! I felt terrible. I was convinced I had let everyone down. But something interesting happened. Nobody got angry. Nobody flamed me. Instead, the group encouraged me. They pointed out mistakes they had made. They reminded me that they could have played better too. And Scion said something that stuck with me. You're still learning. Simple, obvious, but exactly what I needed to hear, because he was right. I was learning. I wasn't supposed to be perfect. I just needed to keep improving. That mindset gave me the confidence to try something even scarier: pugging. I joined 3 different groups, and thankfully things went much better. The keys were only +2s, but they were fewer deaths, smoother runs, and even some compliments from complete strangers. That helped my confidence. But after those 3 runs, I was mentally exhausted. Healing required a completely different level of focus than I was used to, so I took the time to figure out what was causing problems. One issue became obvious almost immediately. I couldn't always tell where the tank was. In a sea of spell effects, nameplates, and health bars, I was constantly losing track of them. The solution turned out to be simple. I marked the tank. Suddenly I could see exactly where they were at all times. That not only improved my awareness, but it also helped me position my totems more effectively. Instead of dropping them randomly, I could place them so the tank sat near the edge of the healing radius, giving me a better chance of reaching ranged players as well. I also started focusing on the little things: keeping buffs up, using bloodlust at the right time, landing interrupts whenever possible. The more I paid attention to those details, the better things started to feel. Slowly but surely, my Raider IO score climbed. I worked my way through the lower keys and eventually found myself staring at a dungeon lineup that included several 5s, a 7, and even an 8. Then came Skyreach, a +9, and Skyreach decided it was going to teach me a lesson. The very first pull started. 3 of us immediately got launched off the platform. Not exactly an ideal beginning. Thankfully, the tank and hunter survived long enough for the rest of us to recover and regroup. We pushed forward to the first boss platform. The tank gathered up all the adds. Nobody interrupted, not even me. The cast went off, and off the platform we went again.
Oh my god.
This time, all 5 of us died. We hadn't even reached the first boss, and we were already sitting at 8 deaths. Every single one of them avoidable. At that point, I thought the run was over. But instead of giving up, we regrouped. We slowed down, we focused, and we started making progress. The first boss died, the second boss died, there were still mistakes, and there were still deaths. Every time someone went down, I find myself wondering if I could have done more. Eventually we reached the third boss. Things were looking good. Then mechanics happened. The evoker died. Later the rest of us exploded from something that to this day I'm still not entirely sure about. We wiped. Someone called for the key to be abandoned. Thankfully, the group voted against it. At that point, we all knew the timer was gone. So instead of treating it like a push key, we treated it like a learning key. And honestly, that changed everything. The pressure disappeared, people relaxed, mistakes became lessons instead of failures. We finished the dungeon. We didn't time it, but we finished it. And strangely enough, I felt like that was a win. After that, I continued working on keys, both on and off stream. Eventually, I got my first +10 completed. The run went incredibly well. To be fair, I think most of the group heavily outgeared the content, but I wasn't about to complain. A +10 is a +10. I got my first myth track piece of gear, then another, then another. As my gear improved, healing started feeling easier and more natural. Before long, I had several 10s completed and only a handful left to finish. Thankfully, a group of friends offered to jump in to help. They needed gear, I needed keys. It worked out perfectly. Over the next couple of days, we hunted down the remaining dungeons one by one, and eventually I did it. Every dungeon completed at a +10 or higher as a healer. Relief, excitement, satisfaction. I had done it. Then I checked for the achievement. Nothing. Turns out there wasn't one this season after all. Honestly, I just laughed. Because by that point, the achievement didn't matter anymore. The journey did. So what did I take away from all of this? First, I have a much deeper appreciation for healers. I notice healing circles now. I notice missed interrupts. I notice avoidable damage. I notice all the little things that makes a healer's life easier or harder. More importantly, I discovered an entirely new way to enjoy the game. I started this journey because I wanted to complete a challenge. I finished it with a whole new appreciation for a role I had barely touched before. Will I become a healer main? Probably not. But I can absolutely see myself healing again in future seasons. Because despite the stress, despite the anxiety, and despite all the moments where I felt completely overwhelmed, there was something incredibly rewarding about it. And if there's one thing this journey taught me, it's this: healing ain't easy.